How did you guys make a relationship flourish during this time? How was the dating period?
Uh, so I think wasn't that bad because what happened was on our first date, when we went for our first date, at least still we could sit, have share a meal. Restaurants were not. Ilikuwa first wave after the first. It was after the first wave, right? It was around August up. So, but we could still have dates then. Some other day we went to the park because we went to a restaurant, then went to the park. Then we had normal dates, but sasa, in fact it was budget. Ilikuwa friendly to the boy child. Ilikuwa very friendly to the boy child. And then sasa mimi ni mtu wa communities. So we ended up also having a lot of times when we would hang out with even some of our friends, and because hakuna restaurants as much, so the hangout kwa one of our friends in Juja Nini, which was closer to her home. That was typically it. Ilikuwa quite nice.
Yeah.
Ilikuwa quite nice. But we didn't overspend kwa restaurants. Yeah, a lot of private moments.
And this question I always ask, how do you know that this is the one? When people always talking about the one, like that one person meant for you. So I dispute. I don't believe that there's anything like the one. But since people talk about it, what convinced you that it's a babe? And maybe also what convinced you it has to be Anne? Yeah. Because now this is leading to what made you decide that what made you make the push to ask her to be your wife? Yeah, because that's there's dating and there's asking someone to be your wife. Yes, please.
Take it away, baby.
I think for me, as I said before, the qualities that I had.
Yeah.
One of them God-fearing, not consuming things that should not be consumed.
Overindulging, basically.
Not even over, shouldn't even.
Not indulging.
Yes.
Sorry.
I think those were the main. Right? Isn't this main? Isn't it? I think those were the main ones. So God-fearing, not using any kind of drugs or.
Yeah. So it basically ticked every.
Yeah, and then good-looking, of course.
Yeah.
Someone who has a good heart. What was the other thing? So those ones were things that were on the physical that he had. And then there's also something else, because I remember you can have conversations with someone and then you can have questions in your mind. So like I'd have several questions in my mind, and then that made me not really sure about him. But then during our conversations, he would answer those questions without me even asking him. So he will not for lack of a better word, reassure me. Yes, he'd reassure me of maybe those doubts that I had. So without even me telling him. So that was one. And then something else, maybe you can say yours. Okay, but maybe before I let him speak, we usually have a marriage mentorship program in our church. So, and I remember we went to this pastor, his name was Pastor Joe. He's a very good worship leader and also a pastor in our church. And he asked us, how sure are you that he's the one? So we prayed, we fasted and we prayed on that particular day. And how God answered my prayer, okay, I cannot say it here. Yeah.
No, he answered it through some divine ways.
Yeah. Okay, maybe what I can say is.
He gave you prayer. He told us that no, niko sawa mimi.
Press.
Angoja.
Okay.
Niko sawa. I got this.
Okay.
Najua huwezi sema. But he asked us to pray for specific things.
Yeah.
So he gave us like so what happens is in our church we normally, he had, because he's my worship pastor. Yeah. And so I work with him directly in our team. And so we were very close. Yeah. And other than that, he had told the entire music department that if you get into a relationship, you must tell me first. Let me know. Yeah. So immediately we started talking. I told him. And then now, after some time, I went and introduced her. So on that day when I introduced her, akatuambia, he said, you need to be sure that this is the one. So I think that's what you're saying. Yes. So he told us, on this specific day, we're going to fast and pray. Yeah. And you must have a certain prayer item that God has to answer on that day. Before we meet on the next meeting. And so she had her prayer item, I had my prayer item, and the answers that we wanted from those prayer items, they were interlinked. Yeah. First, there were different prayer items, but they were interlinked, and other than them being interlinked, like they were all answered. So that assured us that, okay, we are in the right track. Just your question was, how did you know that she was the one? So that's a bit later. Yeah. But for me, like I said earlier, for me when we started, for her, I started answering questions that she hasn't asked. Yeah. For me, it was when like those conversations that we were having were just everything in me ilikuwa inaniambia maze, this is the one. Before that, I had conversations with a lot of married guys, asking them, what made you know that this was the one? The same question. Like, nini ilifanya usettle for this person? And everyone had a lot of opinions. Everyone had like their suggestions. Everyone had their story. But deep, all of them had one thing, like they just knew. They just knew in them that this was the one. But I also had my list of things that I desired.
Such as?
So for me, there were three, which was one, she needed to be intelligent. Two, she needed to have a relationship with God other than myself. So it's self-sustaining. It had nothing to do with me. Intelligence was because it's only an intelligent person that can turn a house into a home. So you need that. It's only an intelligent person that can maintain relationships. And like, I think God's ultimate purpose for us to live together is for us to have relationships. And so you needed someone intelligent. And then thirdly was the physical aspect. So I needed to be attracted to you in one way or another. And Mimi...
Actually, he mentioned that spiritually, emotionally,
physically, like sexually. I had to be physically, emotionally, sexually, spiritually attracted to you. So those things would jump. Naturally for you, it would jump. But it would definitely go past just the physical. And so unapata those conversations that we were having zilikuwa na more emotional and spiritual connection that now the physical ilikuwa hapo already. We had already sort of, and so those inform me. But the last one, and this one I got from now, the conversations that I had with those guys, was that it is very important for a man to find a woman who is teachable. And now that became the most important thing for me, to find a woman who is teachable. Because at the end of the day, as the head of the family, I'm meant to have a vision for our family. And it's very difficult for me to pass my vision to someone who is not teachable. So that was very key for me. And there were small things that informed me that any of this lady, she's the one, because we would have conversations, and conversations I'll allow her to say them if she wants, bordering on very sensitive stuff on how she was brought up and stuff. And zilikuwa like me, venye tu amesema, I'm very forgiving. I'm very easy to be like, I take some things zenye watu wanachukuanga very seriously, mimi naangalianga from the other person. I'm very empathetic on them. Na yes, sasa alikuwa tu like mazee umsi hapana. So at those ilikuwa sensitive kidogo kate. So when we're having those conversations, I could see her heart soften, and her reception towards things that were difficult for her to accept, and it would be difficult for anyone to accept, how she would be malleable.
I think we can say it because I feel like
it's important.
Yeah, because so for me, what happened? It's about my family. I'm an only child. Maybe we forgot to mention that. I'm an only child. So it's just, my family is just my mom and I. So kuna program inaitanga my mom and I. But my family is just my mom. Was my mom and I. Now I have a bigger family. So it was about my dad. He has not been present in my life for the longest time. Then at some point he came back, and then he left again. So for me, it really hurt me, because even from the beginning, the time when he left the first time, I was old enough to know what has happened. And you know how girls are with their fathers. So I even had to change my name. I didn't want to hear his name at any point. I would cry and cry until my names had to be changed from that to Anwerimo. So Werimo is my grandmother. Because you know how Kikuyus are renamed after their husband side, and then so I had now to be changed to Werimo. So it left me with so much hurt, because I mean, are we not lovable enough for you to live twice? So I remember there's even a time we had a fight with my mom, because she'd always say, you know, when you get married.
Musilia.
I'm going to cry.
Unaweza kulia hapa nakujua.
Strong. So I remember there was a time we had a fight with my mom, because she'd always say, when you get married, you have to look for your father, and he will take your dowry, and he will walk you down the aisle. He has not been in my life, my whole entire life. You have scolded me, you have done this for me, and then how do you tell me? Atakuja achukue mahari. How? Kileta mahari sisi tunakula. It's us. It is my mother.
Yeah.
All the hard work she's done. So I think for me it was very, very difficult, and it really hurt me so bad. And I said we had fights with my mom about the same. And the only person who was able to convince me is him. To a point, we had like, because it's a 2 hours conversation about it, because I was telling him, my father is not going to walk me down the aisle, my father is not going to be in the picture, he's not going to know anything. But how things changed and turned around is just a miracle. So we, fun thing, let me take you mbele kidogo, because weirdly enough, I was able to reach out to him, we talked, unfortunately, he didn't make to come for the Rogatio because of, you know, the time we had lockdown and all that. So he couldn't come. But the thing that I like him and I love him for is he was able to convince me. Because najua word imesema the blessing of the father and all that. But him being in a position to help me come from a point of hurt and to feel unwanted, to a point of being loved and following God's word regardless. The Bible does not say obey your father and mother. who is not a drunkard, who does not support you, who abuses you. He does not say that. He says regardless. Hajeka conditions. Mungu amesema, obey your father and mother. Sindio?
Yeah.
So he was able to kunipatia scripture as it is. And my father walked me down the aisle. I do not know how that happened. but as he said, some things happened when we were praying for God to confirm, and it was somewhat linked to my father. So it's a miracle. It's a big thing for me, and so for me, I always wanted to have my own family. Me, I tell him I want 5 kids because one, I'm an only child. 2, I did not grow up with my father. So if there's something that I'm really looking forward to is us sticking like this forever, because unajua ndoa watu wawili kukaa pamoja ni ngumu, but with the help of God, and that's what I was saying, being born again is such a big deal for me, because you understand that you need to get married and divorce is not an option unless, and I'll say this, unless someone hits you or unless your life is at risk. I think that's the only time you're allowed to run. If you feel your life is at risk,
To separate.
to separate.